Teslacam. I hope you're satisfied.
Donnie was heading home from work after getting food with a coworker. He was navigating on autopilot when his car suddenly alerted him with an emergency warning. Donnie took over from autopilot as soon as he heard the alarm. That's when he noticed a VW that missed him by about 3 inches before crashing into a Prius and flipping over. Donnie stopped and checked on both drivers and they were fine. He asked another witness to call 911. The driver of the pickup truck with a surfboard in the bed was Donnie's coworker who he'd been out eating with. At first, he thought Donnie had flipped over. Together, they waited for the California Highway Patrol to show up. Donnie emailed them his Teslacam footage before leaving, and they were grateful. Donnie wanted to send a shout out to Caden and Natalie, who watch Wham Bam every week. Hey there, you two! Ruben's manager's Tesla filmed a distracted driver hitting his parked Volkswagen at work. The other guy was renting a car to drive for Uber, and he had passengers in the car at the time. We can only imagine how complicated the insurance process must have been. Of course, the rental car was a Honda bump. In the end, insurance covered the $9,000 repair bill, and fixing the damage took a month. Zayton witnessed an older woman drive into a tow truck while leaving a gas station. Police and paramedics were called to the scene, but the lady was fine. The tow truck driver took a video for insurance, and the police took a look at the Teslacam footage, but they decided they didn't need a copy after the lady admitted fault and apologized. R was headed to work and drove straight through a puddle he didn't see while rounding a corner. He was completely blinded by the splash. The water caused him to lose sight of the lane markers, and he went slightly straight instead of following the turn. He's pretty sure this helped him avoid hitting a truck that was parked the wrong way on the shoulder. He didn't even notice the truck until he'd passed it and got a glimpse of its lights through the left window. Chris was parked in a department store parking garage when Sentry Mode was triggered by someone walking out of a store with a coffee machine that had a security tag attached to it. Chris told us he thinks he'd stolen it. The person stopped and removed the security tag, then placed it under Chris's car. We're guessing he didn't know the Tesla was filming. Chris gave a copy of his footage to the store so they could provide it to the police. Jacob was driving to work in Tampa, Florida, when a truck cut across 2 lanes in front of him to make a right turn. Jacob slammed on the brakes and avoided the truck with inches to spare. He said he'd love to send this footage to the police, but he can't make out the license plate number in the video. While leaving their neighborhood to head to the post office, Lewis and Tracy saw an SUV speed around a corner with a sheriff's car in pursuit, lights and siren active. 5 minutes later, as Lewis and Tracy returned home from the post office, the SUV was still being chased around their neighborhood with the cop car hot on his trail. The SUV was now driving on 3 tires and a rim. Lewis and Tracy turned on a police scanner app and learned that the SUV was eventually stopped, but the driver made a run for it on foot. We don't know if they were ever caught. While driving his Model 3 in Houston, Texas, Scott stopped at a red light. 10 seconds later, his Tesla was wham-bammed by a Jeep Wrangler from behind. The other driver was a teenager who waited with Scott for the police for over an hour, but they never showed up. Before leaving, she gave Scott her driver's license and allowed him to film a video of her admitting fault. A few days later, she texted Scott and told him she didn't have valid insurance, so Scott's uninsured motorist coverage will be covering the damage. Additionally, Scott's MacBook Pro was in a soft case in the trunk, and it was completely dead when he got home, leading him to suspect that it was damaged in the collision. While this submitter was waiting in an urgent care waiting room, his fiancée spotted Alice Cooper walking across the parking lot and into a pizza shop next door. At first, our submitter didn't believe it, but after reviewing the Sentry Mode footage, he was able to confirm that it was indeed Alice Cooper. Wham Bam Celebrity Cam! Our submitter told us he was a big fan of Wayne's World back in the day, which was his first introduction to Alice Cooper. They immediately watched the video for Feed My Frankenstein and nearly died of laughter when they heard him sing, "I'm a hungry man, but I don't want pizza," because he clearly did want pizza. While this submitter was driving his Model Y on a road in Poland, a white Ford truck started overtaking a construction vehicle. At the same time, a gray Ford began overtaking as well, but didn't notice the Tesla driving in the opposite lane. The submitter had to brake and steer to the right to avoid a head-on collision. Severin and his friend were heading to a party, and he needed to load some things into the back seat. Severin's friend moved his car to make room. When he parked his car again, he didn't notice that the driver's door was still open. The door was bent backward, causing significant damage. Severin's friend immediately accepted fault and contacted his insurance, and the repair bill totaled $7,000 US. The driver of a U-Haul van had been tailgating Mike and his son Ryan for several miles. He moved over when he had a chance, but the van driver wanted to overtake a slow car in the right lane. He used the shoulder and the exit lane to get around traffic, not realizing that there was a New York State trooper behind him. Mike and Ryan watched as he was pulled over for some instant justice. While driving his Model 3 in Palmer, Texas, David almost collided with a driver who failed to yield while turning left onto the on-ramp. At first glance, it appears that David should have yielded to the oncoming lane as he was turning across it to get to the on-ramp. However, upon reviewing the right repeater camera, we can see that the other driver had ignored a yield sign. Clayton was driving in Plano, Texas, when a Lexus turned right from the left lane directly in front of him. He was using autopilot, but he also slammed on the brakes, resulting in a very mild impact. After seeing the video, the insurance company immediately assigned fault to the other driver. James was driving home from a relative's house when he noticed a car driving on the wrong side of the two-lane divided road. James slowed down and honked his horn, but the other driver responded by slowing down and honking their horn for even longer. This submitter parked his Model 3 in Rotterdam in the Netherlands when Sentry Mode was triggered by a guy kicking his tow hitch before stealing the hitch cap. This incident occurred in a police station parking lot, so our submitter walked in and showed them the video, but they just laughed about it. Blue was driving up the mountains for a skiing trip when a semi-truck pulling two trailers started to turn right, cutting off a RAV4 and causing it to swerve into oncoming lanes and onto the shoulder, almost causing an accident. Blue said this gave him a big scare, so we're guessing he was on the edge of his seat the rest of the way up the mountain. Mike was driving home from work when he noticed a white BMW M3 racing up behind him. The BMW driver was inches away from crashing into Mike's Tesla, but Mike was able to swerve just in time. Mike also had an aftermarket dashcam installed, so let's take a look at that footage.
What was that, dude?
We sure wish Teslacam recorded audio. If you need a dashcam that records audio, we've put a link to our pic in the description. Filip was driving his Model 3 in Bratislava, Slovakia. Watch what happened when he approached an intersection with flashing yellow lights. A car entering from a side road didn't yield to the car coming from the main road, perhaps thinking they had a green light, and they crashed into each other. The police arrived, and Filip provided his Teslacam recording to both the police and the victim. Both parties were okay, but they were taken away in an ambulance to get checked out. Here's why you should drive slowly around buses at bus stops. Two pedestrians tried to cross the street between two stopped buses. A car almost hit them, but the driver managed to stop in time. The pedestrians then got upset with the driver. See you later, alligator.